If you search for Nikola Tesla on Google right now, you'll get about 87 million results. When you look at the images, you'll see that there are very few photos and that most of them are edited versions of the same ones. Most of the pictures show him deep in thought. Even in the photo where he's looking at the dial, he appears thoughtful. Tesla was extremely intelligent and obsessive, but his curse was the thoughts he couldn't control. He was America's greatest inventor. Thanks to his invention of alternating current, he was the person who would bring us safer and more efficient electricity for electric motors, fluorescent lamps, X-rays, control with radio waves, and hundreds of other technologies. He designed them incredibly in his mind. Today we are in the age of technology. Now, radio signals and the control of electricity have become outdated. And believe me, reaching this point was not easy at all. He was someone who dedicated his life to the advancement of humanity, was often deceived, betrayed, but still never gave up on changing the world, and was found dead under mysterious circumstances in a hotel room. He was the unsung hero of modern history, Nikola Tesla. In this video series, we will explore Nikola Tesla's incredible inventions. We will question the authenticity of this famous picture and whether Tesla actually invented something called the death ray. Then, we will examine the theories about his death and, of course, his feud with Thomas Edison. Nikola Tesla was born in 1856 on a night when lightning struck non-stop in a small village in what is now Croatia, in Likas, Milan. His father was a devout Orthodox priest. His father's strict orthodoxy often overwhelmed him. Because of this, he had a withdrawn and cautious childhood. He was incredibly talented in mathematics. His father had sworn that he would become a priest, but he wanted to become an engineer. When he was 5 years old, he contracted the deadly disease cholera. He received treatment for about a year and was expected to die. But little Tesla had miraculously defeated death. This illness would change his destiny. His father promised him that he could do whatever he wanted if he recovered. Tesla, who was expected to die for sure, had miraculously recovered. As an adult, he began studying engineering, fulfilling his dream. But for some reasons, he had to drop out of school. But electricity and what it could do had truly fascinated Tesla. He had started to read and research everything about electricity, and his research would lead him to become one of America's most famous inventors. In 1884, Nikola Tesla traveled from the Austrian Empire, which is present-day Croatia, to America by ship. He was now a 28-year-old young man. The reason he came to America was Thomas Edison, who turned electricity into a source of light. He was deeply impressed by what he had done. Despite the great leap in industrialization, humanity was still using gas lamps and candles. Just 4 years had passed since Edison, applying knowledge gained from Alessandro Volta, invented the light bulb and began selling them for $2.50 each. He was selling the light bulb, yes, but he didn't have a system to spread electricity to the masses. Edison thought that with direct current, electricity could be delivered to every home through cables. This required building a power plant on every other street and transmitting the power to homes that way. This system was not only expensive but also unreliable because direct current generators were sensitive and even the slightest problem could cause a power outage. Despite this, a few years later, they started doing this from certain points. In the same years, George Westinghouse, who became wealthy with the air brakes he made for trains, that is the Westinghouse Company, wanted to surpass Edison by using a primitive form of alternating current instead of direct current to transmit electricity over longer distances. Nikola Tesla had just come to work with Edison at that time. Tesla had sent a letter to Edison, written down his ideas, and was accepted by Edison to work at his company. After that, they started working together. A few weeks later, Thomas Edison promised Tesla $50,000 if he could repair the broken generators and make them more efficient. With his intelligence, Tesla quickly did what Edison asked And when he wanted to get his money, he received the following response.
So aren't you going to reconsider my payment? What?
What are you talking about?
You told me $50,000. Aren't you satisfied with the contribution I've made?
The comment about giving you $50,000 was just a joke. I won't actually do that.
This incident would really upset Tesla. Meanwhile, the Westinghouse company built a system that could transmit electricity 2 kilometers away and light up bulbs. For this, they used alternating current and transmitted the electricity by erecting poles along the way. At that time, this was like a miracle. However, the Westinghouse company had not done this in a sustainable way because they didn't have a system. For this, they needed a motor that would work with alternating current. On the other hand, Tesla tells Edison that he needs to give up on direct current. But Edison has spent his entire fortune on this, and he doesn't want to start over for alternating current. Tesla realizes that he can't convince him about this and, unable to take it any longer, leaves Edison's company. So which one was better, direct current or alternating current? The direct current that Edison advocated is pushed forward at a certain voltage through a single line and can't go beyond 2 kilometers. To light up even a small town, you'd have to bury a lot of cables and set up a generator every other street. But the system in direct current is much less deadly for humans. Tesla advocated for this new current, where the current's direction and voltage are adjustable. Also, while direct current can be transmitted only 1 to 2 kilometers at most, alternating current can travel for kilometers and could light up an entire city. The problem, however, is that alternating current can be deadly for humans, and so the current wars began in the 19th century. After leaving Edison, Tesla founded his own company called Tesla Electric and Manufacturing in 1886 and patented his first inventions. The investors want to see Tesla's inventions. Tesla shares some of the patents for transformers and motors that produce alternating current with the investors. These are just the patents for the motors he wants to produce. The investors are not interested in Tesla's new type of alternating current motor. Most of them compare his idea to Edison's reliably working direct current and mock him. In fact, during those years, he made a deal with a company by selling his patents in exchange for shares from the company. But the people at the company don't give him and his ideas enough time, and eventually they fire him. Moreover, they had also bought his patents. Just when everything was about to get better, Tesla loses hope again. He doesn't even have a penny in his pocket. That's why he has to work as a ditch digger for $2 a day. The painful part was that the company he was digging ditches for belonged to Edison Electric. In later days of his life, Tesla would say that 1886 was a very difficult time, and that working here shouldn't have been the reward for his advanced education in various fields of science, mechanics, and literature. But what he didn't know was that from that point on, his destiny would change. At the end of 1886, luck smiled on Tesla. 2 investors had heard about Tesla's determination. They offered to support the inventor financially. Together, in April 1887, they founded the Tesla Electric Company, with 1/3 of the shares going to Tesla, 1/3 to the other 2 investors, and the remaining third to be used for developing the company. In the same year, Tesla developed an induction motor that used alternating current. A year later, in 1888, he received the patent for the motor. In addition to getting the patent, these 2 investors introduced the motor to all the wealthy investors in the area. In 1889, he set up a new lab at 175 Grant Street in Brooklyn. Here he began to research wireless transmission, electromagnetic radiation, and especially high-frequency currents. In 1890, Tesla discovered fluorescent lighting. Tesla was already using this in his laboratory 40 years before fluorescent lamps were used in homes. He was a man ahead of his time. In those years, Tesla gave a breathtaking lecture at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers to demonstrate how wireless lighting could be used, with George Westinghouse also watching him in the classroom. 2 large zinc plates are hung from the ceiling and connected to a Tesla coil. Tesla begins to speak at this moment. I am picking up a glass tube containing partially evacuated air. A part of my body is in contact with one of the wires carrying high voltage, and the tube in my hand is glowing beautifully. Actually, this also contained a political message about the reliability of alternating current. Westinghouse was greatly impressed by the demonstration he watched. Eventually, a $60,000 patent agreement is made between Tesla and Westinghouse. Tesla has secured the required funding. On the other hand, the news of the agreement between Tesla and Westinghouse had almost driven Edison crazy. Thomas Edison starts smear campaigns about alternating current. He organizes ruthless demonstrations in the streets about the dangers of alternating current. For example, they tie up an old horse and give it electricity with alternating current. The horse dies within seconds. They make dozens of people there watch this. Later, they give alternating current to a cat, a dog, a monkey, a sheep, a goat, and even a circus elephant to show how deadly it is, and they are killed. Then the idea of execution by electricity comes to mind. Edison goes even further and secretly funds an electric chair that will use alternating current. William Kemmler, who was accused of killing his wife, was executed by electricity on August 6, 1890 at Auburn Prison in New York, and thus the electric chair was invented. The newspaper headline of the time reads as follows: "After the first attempt to kill him with electric current, the scientists were horrified to see that the victim was still showing signs of life, and they watched as he slowly died in agony." The current was turned on a second time, and the execution of William Kemmler was completed. What happened was terrifying and would never be forgotten. Nikola Tesla moved his laboratory to a house on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan a year later in 1892. While working here, he invented the electromagnetic oscillator. The oscillator is an electric generator with a piston. The system was designed to push a piston connected to the armature up and down, causing it to vibrate at high speed and generate electricity. But Tesla was not even aware that he was actually making an earthquake weapon while testing the oscillator. The electromagnetic waves emitted from the oscillator create a small-scale earthquake effect in the building. Tesla immediately smashes the oscillator to pieces with a sledgehammer he found. Tesla made a statement about this many years later. If the mechanical oscillator is attached to a beam, it could even destroy the Empire State Building. The newspapers of the time made headlines about this. Tesla's earthquake machine. 2 years later, on March 13, 1895, something happens that he would never forget in his life. The building where his laboratory was located had caught fire, starting from the lower floor and engulfed the entire building. Many things that Tesla had worked hard on were burned to ashes. After the incident, Tesla spoke to the New York Times and said, "What can I say? Almost all of my mechanical and scientific instruments, which I spent many years of my life perfecting, melted away in a fire that lasted only 1 or 2 hours. I wish it was only my fortune that was lost, but it wasn't. Everything is gone. But I have to start over for the future of humanity." It is said that there were tears in his eyes as he spoke. After the fire, Tesla locked himself in his house and didn't go out for days. This fire was most likely a conspiracy against him to stop him, because Nikola Tesla had something he was working on and wanted to invent, something that would change the whole world.